We all know every organization has what's called an organization chart. It's basically who's in charge, right? Who has authority. But we also know intuitively that every organization also has another chart. It's called the influencer chart. And that one's not usually written down, but I'm going to show you a really cool technique on how to write down the influencer chart inside of your organization. It helps you understand who influences your decision-making and your power to do what you need to do. My name is Tom. I'm the founder of Vertical Motion, where we help mid-career professionals become executives. This is a tool that I use as an executive to understand my place inside of an organization. It's actually born out of a tool that I used for years and years in business development. When I would lead capture programs for large organizations, we would chase opportunities with maybe the US Army or with General Dynamics or large corporations. If we were trying to sell into these large organizations, it would get unwieldy trying to understand who had authority and permission and who influenced a decision. So this is kind of a sneak peek into the program. You get to see one of the tools that you'll have available to you on the other side of the wall. I'm excited to show this to you, so let's dive into it. Okay, what you're looking at now is what I call a key influencer chart. This is a tool, like I said, that we developed out of business development, but we've readapted it for executives to understand their place inside of large organizations. This may not be important in a small company. You're more easily able to track relationships. Humans are good at tracking relationships in tribes of about 30 people or so. When you get to be above 30 people, it's harder to keep track of all the relationships. And this tool becomes super helpful for large and unwieldy organizations. So that's where you're going to use this. If you're in a Fortune 500 company, for example, or you're in an organization that has thousands of employees across multiple locations, this will help you understand where the locus of influence is in terms of decision making around a specific issue. For the purposes of this, what we're doing is we're taking you and putting you right in the middle of this influencer chart. And then what we're doing is we're trying to figure out who influences your ability to make decisions. So how much decision-making authority do you have, and who gets to veto the decisions that you make? Who influences those decisions, and who influences the people that veto your decision? All of that is kind of baked into this chart. So let's take a tour around this chart together. First of all, over here, number one, the very first thing you want to do is you want to define the players on the field. You want to figure out who interacts with you the most, and then fill in blocks and move them in proximity to you to measure how often you interact. So here you are, you're the blue tile. Every influencer diagram where you're trying to figure out your place in an organization, start with yourself in the middle. Now, you may have direct reports and even reports under your directs, which are called skip level reports. So you may need to have, move yourself up one row. But let's just say that you're a manager and you have employees that you manage, and you have a direct supervisor, and then you have a skip supervisor, which would be like maybe at the C-suite. That's kind of the model we're using here. You start with yourself in the middle, and then what you want to do is you first want to add any direct reports that you have working for you. Just add them as white boxes. Don't worry about anything. So you have someone who is a very new direct, and you can put in their title if you want, right? You have a friendly new direct. We'll talk about the colors in a second. Right now, all you want to do is you just want to add the boxes as white boxes down here. And then you want to add who your peers are right next to you on the same level. Then above that, you want to add not only your direct supervisor, but your supervisor's peers. And then above that, if whoever your supervisor's direct is, you want to add that person and then some of the peers of that person as well. In the beginning, the first step, it should just look like white boxes, right? So it should look something a little bit more like this. So you would be here, you would be the blue box that goes here, and then all of the other people, you would add their names as appropriate. That's how this comes together. Let's go back to this. The second thing that you want to do is you want to figure out what your relationship with these people are. So determine your level of relationship you have with everyone. When you start in a new organization, on day one, most of these blocks will be white or yellow. Now, the color coding, red, negative. It means that this is someone that doesn't like you. For whatever reason, you and this person just do not get along. And so this would be a negative relationship with someone. White means little to no relationship. You just don't know this person very well. You're just getting to know them and you haven't quite figured them out yet. Yellow is neutral. They're nice enough. You don't really have an issue. You know them, you work with them, but they're not someone that you go have a beer with. They're just there and you just don't really have a close relationship, but you guys are fine to work together. And then green is friendly. And this obviously means someone that's, going to stick up for you and tell you like, hey, they're saying this about you. Someone who's going to be there for you and you're there for them as well. And you would go have a beer with this person. Remember, you're blue. Red means a negative relationship. White means little to no relationship. Yellow means neutral relationship. Green means positive relationship. Once you've added all of the names, then you want to color code them. Next, what you want to do is you want to determine their role. And I don't mean like their title, but their role in the decision making. So determine if they are someone who has to approve what you do, if they themselves are a key decision maker for what you do, or if they have influence over what you do. So your roles here are influencer, key decision maker, and approver. So let's think about this. Who decides what authority you have in your role? Well, your direct supervisor typically is the person who decides what authority you have. So they are the key decision maker of your level of authority. Well, who approves that? Typically, your direct supervisor's direct supervisor or your skip will be the person who approves of the direct supervisor delegating that authority to you. You have this person above your direct who is the approver, and then you have the person above you as the KDM or key decision maker for your level of authority in the organization. And then you're the one that actually makes the decisions in your role and actually does the work that's in your role. So that's how KDM and approver work. Everyone else is basically an influencer. Unless you have dotted line connections to multiple people in a matrix organization, which is insane, by the way. Everyone should have one person to report to, not 8 bosses, but it happens. So you may have to include other KDMs or other approvers. If your direct has 3 bosses, she might have 3 approvers. So you just have to kind of understand where the locus of decision-making actually stands. Everyone else is an influencer. And then finally, we define, number 4, their level of influence. So finally determine how much influence do they have over decisions that you will make in your role. Your direct boss should be your only KDM, but not always. Like you have all these other people who are influencers, right? What we do now is we decide what their decision influence strength is. So someone that's over here, this person may actually be a 0. Right? So you can have decision influence from 0 to 5. And what this means, what you're looking for is someone who has a very high level of influence is someone that you need to make sure they're in alignment with what you want to do. Sometimes like high level executives will have a lot of influence over an organization. So let's say that your skip supervisor is the CTO, but you also have a CEO in the organization who's very hands-on and likes to get involved in decisions. Deep down, they're kind of a micromanager. Well, they're going to have a higher level of influence, INF maybe 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 in bad situations when you have a really bad micromanager in the organization somewhere. That level of influence is going to increase the more that they want to have a say over what you do. Whereas someone who is maybe, kind of a distant peer or a direct that's not really engaged very much in the business, or they're just kind of heads down and they have no interest in decision making. They just want to do a thing. They're going to have less influence. You may have directs that are very engaged in the business and get excited when you make good decisions, and they get disconnected when you make bad ones. From their perspective, they're going to have a higher level of influence over your decision making. So what you should have at the end of this exercise is a chart that looks something like this, where you're in the middle. You know who the good people are, the people that are friendly to you. You know who the neutral people are. You know who the people to worry about. These people that are not going to be on your side and not going to help you in decision making. And then you have people that you just don't know yet. You just don't really know very much about them. So you need to figure out what that relationship with them is going to be long term. Then you figure out whether they're a key decision maker, an approver, an influencer, and then what level of influence they have. As you build this chart, what you'll find is that you learn how people influence your decision making. This is very different than an org chart for obvious reasons, because the org chart doesn't belie the true relationships inside of an organization. This shows you who's influencing whom. So with that, let's go ahead and just take a look at a blank chart. What we have here is you have this blank chart. We're just going to start by putting ourselves right here in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put me, right? And I'm just going to say I'm a coach, whatever, right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this box blue because that's me. So I'm in this organization, right? Who are the people who influence me? Well, so I'll have a boss, right? She's the boss, right? So she's, VP of awesomeness. So her role is going to be KDM, right? And she's going to have a lot of influence over me. I'm going to say that she has, of 0 to 5, she has 5 level of influence over my decision making. So what you can see what I'm doing here is I'm adding people to this organization around me. I'm starting with my boss, and I have a good relationship with my boss. So I'm going to color this relationship green. Now, maybe she works for someone at the higher level of the organization and I don't know them as well. So I might color that box white. Or I know them, they know me, but we don't have a deep relationship. And in that case, I would color that yellow, and on and on and on. All of my direct reports that report to me would show up down here. And then all of my peers, people that I work with at my level of the organization, they would show up here. My boss's peers would show up here, and so on. I hope you can see how you can put together this influencer diagram that helps you understand where you sit inside of an organization and who has influence over what you're doing in decision-making authority. I found this diagram to be super helpful throughout my career, and now I'm making it available to the people who are in my Executive Career Accelerator program. If you're interested in using this tool, I'm going to make this available in a link below in the description where you can download this tool for yourself. I'll put it into PowerPoint format, so it should be useful to anyone. Right now I have it in Keynote, but I'll put it in PowerPoint for you to use. So you can download this tool for yourself to use, and you can also learn more about the Executive Career Accelerator program, where we teach this and 100 other tools that are super helpful to executives as they go along in their career. So that's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. I hope this concept was helpful to you. If you want to learn more, you can also connect with me on Instagram at TomCoxVM, where you can send me direct messages and I will talk with you specifically about situations. If you want to know how to do this, you can also write comments down below on this video and we can talk through how to use this kind of tool. So again, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.